Hi, welcome back to another Crypto Dave video. It's a Friday afternoon, which means a weekly crypto roundup video. And before we jump into the stories, as always, we'll start by taking a quick glance at the markets. Market cap currently just under 205 billion, so that's down about 21 billion on last week. Bitcoin dominance up this week as the altcoins have lost a lot more than Bitcoin, up to almost 55%, 54.8%. I think we were on about 53.3 last week, so up 1.5% Bitcoin dominance, which is quite significant, I think. And obviously the big story this week was this massive sell-off a couple of days ago. So we had this initial kind of big swing down. I think Bitcoin lost something in the region of $300 in a matter of minutes. There was a little kind of pause here where, you know, it looked like there might be a tiny bit of resistance, but then continued to kind of fall down. And when Bitcoin kind of went down, the alts went down substantially kind of more. And we've been tracking along basically for the last day and a half along the kind of bottom here really since that kind of fall. So Bitcoin now just a fraction under 6,500, so 6,487 at the moment. Ethereum down, look at that, you know, heading down towards kind of 200, which I think is kind of you know, kind of crazy. If a few months ago I think many people would have not thought in any way Ethereum could get down to the $200 marks. But yeah, across the top 20, basically every kind of coin was down. I remember looking at the kind of charts. I don't think there was anything up. You know, Tether was obviously, you know, kind of where it always is. But apart from that, I think every kind of coin was down substantially. We're seeing the same kind of trend, this big sell-off a couple of days ago. And I did mention last week, you know, we'd had this protracted period where we've been tracking sideways. The sort of the market was kind of tightening. The range was kind of tightening, and normally when that happens, you know, we get a break, and obviously we saw that break to the downside this week. I did say last week that I thought possibly we've got another one, maybe two drops, you know, left within the kind of market. I think we're, you know, I like to think we're getting towards the end of this kind of like, you know, kind of really bearish kind of trend. But you know, I said last week, you know, I thought possibly another kind of like one or two kind of drops. I think that's probably still fair. So we've had this drop. We'll have to see what happens over the next week. I think we'll start to see some slow kind of gradual kind of growth back up. I don't think it'll be anything kind of massive, but I think we'll start to see a little bit of a kind of slow gradual growth this week. But there isn't really enough volume in the market to kind of to get around these kind of like these big dips. You know, people with a lot of kind of Bitcoin can buy over the counter. They can just flood that onto the kind of, you know, exchanges and push the price down dramatically. So we don't have really the volume in the kind of markets in order to kind of counteract these kind of trends. But yeah, it's been obviously, you know, quite a shock for a few people a couple of days ago. I think, you know, anybody who's been following the markets kind of this year is probably now a little bit kind of used to this. So we saw this big kind of pullback. We're flat now along the kind of bottom here. So we'll see what happens in the next week. I think we'll start to see a little bit of kind of growth over the kind of next week. But, you know, I could easily see when we kind of get back up to this sort of 7,500, 8,000 mark, maybe over the next few weeks or months, or month or so, I could see maybe another drop, maybe another kind of couple of drops before we get, you know, that really nice kind of upswing. Anyway, let's jump over to the first story this week, and this is tied into the market drop. So one of the reasons a lot of people put out, let me just jump over here, was the fact that there was a piece that said basically Goldman Sachs were ditching their crypto desk, that they were ditching the kind of idea and putting it on the kind of the back burner. Now, the day after or day after that, or a couple of days after that, their CFO came out and said basically it was kind of fake news, that they weren't ditching it. You know, they still didn't have a time scale that it was going to be kind of implemented, but they're still looking at it. They're still hoping to kind of do it, but obviously, you know, there is no kind of time scale as to when it will be kind of like developed and when it will be live. So it was quite interesting. I don't think this story did kind of crash the market in the way that some people kind of said. You can read this and all the other kind of stories I'll put links to as always below. I don't think it did kind of crash the market. I think looking at the kind of technical analysis, you could see that we were kind of due for a break one way or the other, and I think, you know, that's just, you know, really kind of what happened. I think whenever there's a kind of big breakdown, particularly a big breakdown or a run up, people try and attribute it to something. People try and find, you know, a way or kind of reason why things you know, happen. We saw this, you know, at the beginning of the year when we had those kind of big drops back in kind of January, February, and everybody was saying, well, you know, Chinese New Year, then it was banker bonuses, then it was this, you know, everybody was predicting this turnaround within the kind of market due to all these kind of things that happened in the past. We had, kind of conference season, people saying, well, that or consensus will kind of push the market up massively and all these different things, which proved to be kind of false. So I think people often like, the idea that, there's something kind of like simple that kind of explains it. So they go, oh, well, it makes sense. There was a dodgy kind of article about this. Everybody kind of panicked. But I think, the markets, move a little bit more distinct from these kind of like news stories. So interesting that, supposedly, it was a bit of a kind of non-story. But that's the way these things go. So let's jump over to the next kind of story rather, and that's Coinbase Pro. So they announced a couple of days ago that they will be supporting GBP, so British pounds, as a trading pair for their currencies. I had a look just now, and you can see they are now live. They went live this morning. This is the BTC Great Britain pound pair, but as you can see here, we've also got, so you've got Bitcoin, we've got Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, and Ethereum Classic. So all their kind of main kind of coins now paired with GBP, as well as obviously US dollars and euros, which they were paired with before. So this is good news for people in the UK. There seems to be a bit of volume going through. It's not kind of crazy, but there seem to be a reasonable amount kind of trading on it, which is nice to see. Anyway, let's jump over to the next story, and that's Robinhood. So a lot of people, particularly in the US, will be aware of Robinhood. It's a trading platform, so it's a stock and also cryptocurrency trading platform. And they've launched their cryptocurrency trading earlier this year. Now, it's a bit of a bizarre platform in that you can only hold the crypto within their kind of application. You can't withdraw it to an external wallet or anything like that. So it's a little bit different from, Coinbase and some of the other Gemini and some of the other kind of fiat kind of gateways into the kind of market. But it's quite interesting to know that they are launching or planning to launch an IPO. So they're currently looking for a chief financial officer. They've raised a huge amount of money actually this year. I think they've raised almost $500 million in sort of early round funding, and they are now looking to kind of go to an IPO. So with all the talk of ICOs recently, and various kind of scams and stuff like that, interesting to see a crypto company actually going down the IPO route, a bit like Bitmain, where we've seen kind of recently a lot of kind of non-crypto kind of companies and projects going the ICO route. So it's quite interesting to kind of see, but they're a very large player. I think they're the second largest. I was reading they were the second largest, valued at $5.6 billion. So it makes the second most valuable fintech startup in the US. So a load of users. I think they've got about 5 million users dealing in cryptocurrencies on their kind of platform. So it's a very big platform, and it'll be interesting to see how much they raise in their IPO, and indeed, whether they get approval to actually do to launch their IPO from the regulators. And then jumping over to our last story this week, another Coinbase story, and this is another ETF story. So ETFs have dominated the kind of the news, the institutional kind of investment kind of news within cryptocurrencies. Obviously, we've had the SEC rulings on a number of ETFs that where they've knocked them back or delayed the out kind of comes, and we're still waiting for, I think next week is it, that the CBOE ETF decision will kind of come through. But interesting to see that Coinbase are considering launching a crypto ETF with the help of BlackRock, obviously a massive financial sort of more traditional kind of financial platform, BlackRock. So interesting to see they were going on. I think it's probably just a matter of time when you've got companies like Gemini, that's a Winklevoss twins ETF. So they're in the same kind of market, and obviously Coinbase would not want Gemini to get a big kind of jump start on them. So I think they can probably they're looking at it and probably thinking, well, maybe we're getting towards the end of the kind of ETF kind of process. Maybe at some point in the next 6 months or year, there will be ETFs kind of approved, and they want to get themselves in a position where they can actually launch their own one once the SEC looks more favourably, I think, at some ETFs. Anyway, that's it for this week. A little bit of a short one because I'm just about to head out, but hope you've had a good week. Let me know below what you think caused a big kind of market sell-off beginning of the kind of, or middle of the week rather, a couple of days ago. It's always nice to hear other people's opinions on these things. Do you think it was the Goldman Sachs article? A lot of people have suggested, that it was, bots that are sort of scanning the news sites, that they saw the headline and then just kind of like auto kind of sold, which then created a kind of snowball effect, or do you think it was just, you know, kind of like sort of market kind of fundamentals and technical analysis kind of based? Anyway, let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks again for watching, and hopefully I will see you on the next video. Have a great weekend. Bye bye.